Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you today to this lovely conversation that I'm having with my dear friend and colleague, Courtney Moore. In a moment, I'll introduce her, but I wanted to share my intention of this. I'm wanting to take the opportunity each month to spotlight and to really highlight one of our mindful grieving facilitators in the community, both to share this beautiful work she's doing to inspire you and to offer resources and some of the ways that she can serve. So I'd like to introduce you to Courtney, who is a mindful grieving facilitator, a yoga teacher, a gym owner, a mom, a wife, a friend, a leader in her community, and so many other things too. So nice to have you, Courtney.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm just grateful to be here with you, Wendy.
Well, I'm grateful to have you here too. Um, I'd like to start by just inviting you to share a little bit of kind of what led you to this work, what led you to step into the mindful grieving training, and, since you've done the training, kind of what's happening for you from there? Like, how are you bringing it into the world?
Yeah, so I um I started searching for grief work just for myself personally after the passing of my mom in 2020. And I mean that was such a big time and heavy time for so many people. My business, owning a gym, and during the pandemic was a not a great great place to be. So in 2020, I felt like it was just multiple layers of grief, and I was really struggling. And I found it that in my area, which I live on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, that there really wasn't a whole lot when it came to just like grief support, other than like the more traditional outlets of like maybe going to like hospice or searching out like a bereavement counselor or something like that. But also at that time, I mean, you weren't meeting with people face to face, so it was really. I feel like it was like this, the stars aligned, and I just was searching. That's how I came across the Mindful Grieving Facilitator training. And I mean, long story short, that's kind of how I came into this work, is just trying to figure out how to navigate the many losses that I had experienced. And it was like my first experience with any kind of grief work. And I feel like that the training really just catapulted me into just my love for grief work. It's like my soul passion, my purpose, I feel like at this point. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And I will say I continue to navigate where I'm taking it into my own community. I do offer typically 2 to 3 times a year the 6 week series, the 6 week mindful grieving series, which is always so well received. And I typically offer that in my gym, and I do offer it sometimes online as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing a bit of that background. And I do remember when you came into this work during COVID, it was that the first online training we did, and it was such an interesting time in the world, really. And I'm so happy that you found your way to me, to us, and to this work, especially because of all the beautiful things that you're doing here, and sharing this with your community. I'd love to hear more about your experience of teaching this work, and also share any opportunities that you may have coming up for folks to work with you or to experience this with you.
Yeah. So I want to say the most profound thing that I wasn't expecting to experience. I experienced this in the training, but I also see it every single time I offer one of the 6 week series, is the beautiful connection that grievers make with each other. And it is just so amazing to just not only be able to like witness but to be a part of. And I have found that in offering this kind of work, it just has it it doesn't, I can't even really express like the magic that it is when you really see it. And when I say that, like, the people who come in to do the series, they are now lifelong friends, and I feel like that's like what it's all about, right? To just be a witness and a support for each other, and to be just like a little tiny part of that is really incredible. And I will say, like, in our training, Wendy, I am still friends with and connect with a lot of the women that were in my cohort, and also the other women that aren't in my cohort. Are actually, I have a few that are supporting me and some of the things that I'm doing, and these are people I've never met. And it, like, person to person, like in real life. And these are all just connections that I've made online through the Mindful Grieving Facilitator training. And to me, that's like so powerful, and what brought us together is grief.
Mhm.
I feel like I just went on a complete tangent, but I felt like it was so important to talk about that connection, like that love and that connection that you have when you're offering this kind of work. And so being a facilitator, being able to see it, witness it, and then also having experienced it myself is just truly profound.
So beautifully said. I'd love to reflect a couple things that you shared as
Okay.
you in the mindful grieving world. And I'd also love to ask another question. Um,
Okay.
Number one, I hear that so much the takeaway from you, both in the experience of the training and in offering this work, is connection, is being a part of that, and the magic that you experience of witnessing people, really find that sense of belonging and connection in these groups. And it's such a beautiful testimony to you and how meaningful connection is in your life that you're still friends and connected to folks that you did a training with many years ago, and that it's stuck. And what I also heard kind of through your sharing is kind of the relationship between like experiencing the work, doing your own grief work, and offering it. Which certainly in the training we kind of switch hats, as we say, or toggle that quite a bit. But I also kind of hear the way that that is like continuing to show up, as you offer this work, and to hear, and it's kind of shown in your whole being, just the ways that grief work has become part of your purpose and a meaningful part of who you are and what you do. And that's a beautiful thing to witness. And I think it's yeah, I'm just so grateful that you're here kind of sharing this experience with both other facilitators who've been through this themselves, but also the larger community who may be, considering, is grief work something that they feel called to, and want to step into. Um, I also know that, in addition to the mindful grieving training, you've been kind of building your tool belt for grief support resources, and that you've been kind of exploring different platforms and ways of creating connection. And I want to just invite you to talk more about that if you would like, around like kind of some of the ways you're creating connection around for grief support in community, and kind of how that is going for you.
Yeah. So I have there's so many different ways that I've been looking at, just as far as like that connection piece, and not only locally in my area, but just like online. And so I've been playing around with Mighty Networks, and I also have a private Facebook group. And so in the area that I serve, again on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, I have a support group. It's called the Good Grief Collective, and so it's an online support group. We actually do meet in person if you're local, and it's the intention is to make just grief work accessible, and a platform where we can just speak openly about grief. And I have found that of all the things that I've tried in this online group, the one thing that is a hit and people show up for every single month is our book club. And so in this book club, we meet once a month on it's the last Monday of every month, and we have read, just a number of different genres, and it's really fascinating to just connect online with people to talk about, the book of the month, and we always find a way to discuss how grief shows up in the book for some of the characters and how it lands. And anyway, so to me, of all the things, like I feel like as a movement practitioner, I always really stress and talk about like movement and how important that is in your grief journey. But this book club, I tell you, it is the one thing that brings everybody, I feel like, together in this space. So and it's free, right? Anybody and anyone who is looking to just be in a really well-intended space and community can check out the Good Grief Collective space. It's a private Facebook group, and I'm going back and forth right now between Facebook and also Mighty Networks. But I find that there more people are just on Facebook than they are on other platforms. But that's been kind of like a trial and error situation too, right? Figuring that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing this beautiful resource. And, one thing I know we've talked about over the years together is like the challenge of offering grief work, right? Like of how do you find your niche and how do you kind of figure out how to plug into your community, both, where you live as well as online. And I'm wondering if you have any words of wisdom for our other mindful grieving facilitators. There are about 100 of us out there these days around the world offering this work. And I know that many of us share, myself included, some of these struggles is how do we get it out there? How do we help people find us who need it the most? And I know you've been exploring so many ways of doing that. I know you to have strong, amazing leadership skills. And I'm curious if you have any words of wisdom for other facilitators or other folks out there.
Yeah, I personally I tried to reinvent the wheel so many different times when it came to just figuring out who I was in this work. And what I find to be true for me is I've got this, I'm very privileged in the sense that I have my own gym and I have an audience full of people already. And I was looking at like getting online and having to have, be on Instagram and do all these like things where I've got a community already, and I have my background is in health and wellness and exercise, and I have really kind of transformed my own personal training practice in like into like a grief informed personal training. Like programming basically is a lot of what I'm doing, but a lot of it is very much so grief informed but what I'm saying is just knowing who you are and exploring things that you're already passionate about and finding a way that you can tie in your own grief work and your intention in spreading that work into the world. It just completely being who you are, right? And trying not to compare yourself to other people, right? Because we all have our own experiences and we can all bring something completely different into this work, and just being confident, I think, in who you are.
Mm, thank you. What a beautiful message. So at the end of the day, we just need to show up and be who we are. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I also hear the value of plugging into existing communities, right? The
Mhm.
places you're already connected, the places where you feel you can show up and be yourself. I also kind of hear the ways that you're able to bring in some of this grief-informed training into other things that you're doing, which is, I think, a really important thing that I'll just highlight that, yes, you're able to offer mindful grieving programs, but it's also informing it sounds like, other aspects of your work and other ways that you're supporting people.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. And I mean, I've been able to take a lot of what I learned in the facilitator training, and honestly, and that witnessing and just and being able to just show up fully with just so much grace and compassion, hearing people, right? Sometimes people just need to be heard. And that's so much what I feel like other than like obviously the yoga and all that stuff, but so much of being a facilitator is being a witness and being just eyes and ears to just support the people that show up in front of you.
Absolutely. So beautifully said. Well, any final kind of takeaways that you'd like to leave us with? And I'm going to invite you to speak either directly to our other mindful grieving facilitators who are here kind of watching, but also the larger community. Any final words that you want to leave us with for today?
From one grieving person to all the other, grieving people that are out there, continue to just show up for yourself. I mean, that's the most important thing. And if that means just showing up for yourself in bed or, showing up for others in grief, it's, knowing that there is community out there, and whether you're the change maker that starts that community or if just find a local community. I think it's just so important to find those people that build you up, and but the first step is continuing to just show up for yourself and to offer just so much grace and love and compassion in grief. It's not, so it's something that we all experience, right? And we're all in it together, and to just continue to talk about it, right? Just to show up and to talk about it.
Beautifully said. The end of the day. That's the best way I know as well to support myself and others through grief.
Mhm.
Thank you, Courtney. It has been so wonderful having this little conversation with you today. I just love being in community with you, and I love the work you're doing out in the world. So thank you with all my heart for being you and for
Mhm.
showing up and for sharing your gifts in all the ways that you do.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Much love. Talk again soon. And for everyone else out there, see you again soon. Take care.